Said we are your body, one drop of blood, change up the mud. Said we are your body, Lord. Just want to read for you guys from Matthew chapter 24. Take heed that no man deceives you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. You shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you're not troubled, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. But all these things are the beginning of sorrows. And they will deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise and deceive many, because iniquity shall abound. The love of many shall wax cold. But he that endures unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. I want to read this because, like I said before to you guys, what's coming up, it's not going to be easy. We've had a season of quite plentiness and so on, but even then, even in this season of plentiness, we find that there's a lot of factions in the body of Christ. A lot of people who the title of their faction does not testify to Jesus. And the head of the body is Christ, but yet their name doesn't have Christ in it. Think about it. All these other religious groups, all of these religions, they're man-made because they're beginning. The name they're called after is not even the name of Christ. Think about what I'm saying. They're called all kinds of names except Christ. Christ ain't anywhere in their name. Now, that's not to say that there are not believers in each and every faction. But the thing is, you cannot say you are the body of Christ, but you only conform to a certain set of people with a certain set of labels. No, that's the same thing 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and 11 is talking about. You can't be talking about you're going to eat the Lord's Supper, but you line in with your little clique. It don't work like that. The body is spiritual. And no spiritual body got some man earthly title. Oh, I'm based on baptism, or I'm based on the second coming and a certain day, or I'm based on servitude, or I'm based on the worldwide church. No. You are based, and the church is based on Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. He is the head of the body. And that's who we should be talking about all the time. Jesus gave us not the chance at life, giving us a chance at life. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah, there's going to be persecution. And some people who seem to be of us, seem to be brothers and sisters, they're going to turn against us. You know what I mean? So I wanted to share that with you guys before I get into the boxing. So there's a lot of boxing going on, a lot of things that have come up in the boxing news. If you want to leave your comments in the comment section, feel free to do so. I'm just going to talk about the first one that it looks like Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence have come to an agreement. This was published in the LA Times. And apparently, we're looking at March 16th of 2019. I know I'm saying it says March 1 there. It's just that it's a typo where I missed the 6. The 6 didn't punch in. But March 16th, 2019 looks like this is when they're going to fight in the AT&T Center in Texas. And like I said before, that looks like it's going to be a huge fight. It's going to be great. And I'm happy for both guys. I was just watching the Boxing Voice and what they were saying about these guys. It's very interesting. what people are saying and so on. But I want to show you guys something. I'm going into screen share here for a second. So when you look at the welterweight division, this is the welterweight division. We're looking at the ratings in the welterweight division. It's BoxRec. BoxRec is using some sort of computerized system. We see that the #1 welterweight in the world, how that happened, I don't know, but the #1 welterweight in the world is Terence Crawford, according to that information. And then the next one is Manny Pacquiao. Now, I can understand Manny Pacquiao being #2, not based on his recent fights, not at all, but based on the body of work he's done at welterweight and so on. So I can see how he's ranked that highly by a computerized system, but I don't think he should be ranked that highly, quite frankly. The next one is Errol Spence Jr. Somehow Terence Crawford is ranked ahead of Errol Spence Jr. Now, I can tell you why. I think, again, they're looking at the body of work and not necessarily what he has done at welterweight. At welterweight, who's Terence Crawford fought at welterweight? One world champion in Jeff Horn, who, you know, managed to make his name by beating Pacquiao. And then he's not beaten any other significant welterweight at the division, okay? Is what it is. When we look at Manny Pacquiao, he's beaten the who's who of the welterweight division, and he's only had a couple losses to some very, very good welterweights, right? Except Jeff Horn. Then Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. really got no names at welterweight. The only name he really got is Kell Brook and Lamont Peterson. Lamont Peterson's not really a true welterweight. He just kind of came up at welterweight. And Lamont Peterson had really fought no serious competition. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about in a second. Let me go to Errol Spence Jr.'s resume so you can have a good look at it, right? 1 second. So here's Errol Spence Jr. right here. And if you look, he beat Lamont Peterson and he beat Kell Brook. Kell Brook was a true welterweight, big, powerful welterweight. But again, Kell Brook didn't really beat nobody a note. The only person he had beaten was Sean Porter, who was the IBF world champion at the time. But other than that, Kell Brook ain't got no other scalps on his name. But he was considered the #1 welterweight in the world at the time because he was looking really good. So that's the guy that Errol Spence beat. And, you know, he damaged his eye orbital, his next eye orbital, and so that fight was stopped. It's a good fight, by the way. It went almost 12 rounds. Now, that's besides the point, though. The point is, Kell Brook don't really got no deep resume. He's a career welterweight, but he ain't really fought nobody. The only person he fought was Sean Porter. That's it. And then he fought GGG at middleweight, went up and fought GGG at middleweight and got his eye orbital damaged. And then came down and got beaten up by Errol Spence. Of course, he was beating up Errol early, but Errol started breaking him down. Too much headhunting. Lamont Peterson. Lamont Peterson, let me show you guys something. He's probably the weakest of all the welterweights out there, to be honest with you. He's the weakest one. Unless you talk about Amir Khan. He's probably the weakest of the welterweights. And if you look at his resume, he got stopped by Lucas Matisse. Okay. He got beaten by Danny Garcia. In the fight, he did pretty good, but I think he came on too late. And then now they threw in the towel. Well, his eyes was getting puffy, so he couldn't see the shots anymore. You know, Errol Spence Jr. started breaking him down a little bit later on in the fight, but he was doing pretty good against Errol Spence Jr. I think he was taking too much punches, though. He was getting certain punches landed on him, you know, because, again, he was standing directly in front of Errol, walking to him. Like he was going to do a tough man competition against Errol. You got to mix it up, you know, and his game plan wasn't the best game plan, but he did expose certain things in Errol. Errol didn't like certain shots, backed away off, and then, you know, Lamont will walk him down. But he also took punches to land punches. You see sometimes Peterson land a body shot, Errol counterpunch him. So it was like, you know, tit for tat, kind of toe-to-toe kind of stuff, which I thought was kind of dumb. Errol was, you know, using some slickness as well, which he showed some stuff in there against Peterson, some extra stuff that we didn't see before. And even his shot selection was pretty interesting. But at the end of the day, I thought Lamont kind of gave Errol certain things. Errol got certain shots into him, and he was just mostly blocking the shots. He wasn't trying to really slip and roll and make himself a difficult target at times. And I guess he learned his lesson from fighting Danny Garcia, where he wasn't. He stayed out of range. I think sometimes you have to make a guy like Errol move a bit. Sometimes you got to turn him. Sometimes you got to punch him. You know, I think maybe Lamont thought that the Canelo approach, what Canelo was able to do with Triple G, he would be able to do, but it's not as easy as that. Canelo can do stuff. He can really roll punches and really get you so that you don't hit him at all. He's super slippery. And in the case of, that's another thing I noticed, that Lamont wasn't really riding the shots. What I mean by that is catching and riding. So for instance, when Errol starts to tee off on Lamont's body, whether it's in the center of the ring or otherwise, Lamont's not riding the shots. Canelo rides shots. He rolls his body and rides shots. And you just did not see that with Lamont. He was just taking it. He was trying to catch it more than anything else, or block it. And there was a certain time when, man, Spence hit Lamont on his hand, and Lamont's hand, he literally hurt Lamont's hand. And you saw Lamont kind of back off and, like, dang, I think you almost broke my hand. You know what I mean? And that's, again, because when you freeze up and you give Errol Spence a target, Errol Spence is just going to go berserk on you. You know what I mean? You've got to be a moving target that stays out of the preferred range of Errol Spence. You're either inside smothering him or you're outside punching him. You don't give him mid-range. You don't let him collapse his arms and just tee off on you. And I think that's the thing that Lamont did wrong. And I think Mikey Garcia, seeing that, it was like, hey, man, this dude, he not all that people making him out to be. Yeah, he's well conditioned and all of that, and he can go all 12 rounds and just keep going. But he got some flaws, and I'm going to exploit that. Now, the thing with Mikey is Mikey's going to have to use footwork. He's going to have to use the right angles to make that happen, change levels and all of that stuff to make that happen. You can't just go straight forward against Errol Spence saying you're going to rumble toe-to-toe with him. You're going to get smoked, right? You got to use angles. When you get on the inside, again, I advise people to look at, but this is something you have to develop. This is a skill you have to have. You look at what Badu Jack did against Adonis Stevenson, how he cramped him for space, smothered him, and came off at an angle on the inside. And when you're on the outside, you got to trick the guy into coming down the wrong angle so you can counterpunch him. And he's athletic and he can pivot as well. Errol has some good pivot work. So you better be able to catch him. You got to be first on Errol as well. You got to be first. Can't be just reactionary with Errol. Errol's waiting for you to counterpunch so he can counterpunch you and set you up to get you to the ropes so he can work you. So, and Errol's extremely fit guy, but if he's really drinking, then that's a flaw in his game. And again, Mikey might be able to exploit that. Maybe not. We have to see what kind of skills Mikey has, what kind of skills he'll need to use to face Errol. He'll have to push Errol back. He'll have to walk him down a bit. He'll have to pick his spots where he can walk him down. He'll have to have good timing to be able to hit Errol. Again, so how you place your shots. And even when you're placing your shots, it's an investment for the future, But anyway, Errol's a very big guy, like we know. And so, but here's the thing I really wanted to show you guys here. So when you look at Lamont Peterson's record, he doesn't really have, when he faced Danny Garcia beat him. He's got okay guys like Darius John and so on that Terrence Crawford smoked. Lucas Matisse stopped him. Okay. And most of his better wins were like against Amir Khan, Kendall Holt. So that's basically it. Even against Victor Ortiz, Ortiz beat him up. You know what I'm saying? So he's not the toughest guy in the world. Timothy Bradley beat him up. I remember that well. He beat Leonardo Tyner, but Tyner was a tough job against him. So Peterson's a good boxer, but he's not the strongest guy with the strongest resume, to be honest with you. So it's not surprising that he got beat down by Errol Spence, because he's a good boxer, but he ain't no Mikey Garcia, I don't think. He's not no Danny Garcia either, okay? He's just not. And even when people talk about how he beat Danny Garcia, I don't think so. But he gets stronger as the fight goes along, except against Errol Spence. He didn't get the chance to really be strong because his eyes were all puffy. Errol Spence was getting to tag him up to the head. So that's what happened there. But at the end of the day, he is a solid boxer. He's multiple world champion. both at super welter and then uh, up at welterweight. All right. So another thing I'm showing you guys, the ring ranks Errol Spence as the #1 welterweight in the division. Again, I guess they're looking at how spectacular he wins his fights and his level of competition. But when you look at Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, they really ain't faced nobody. They make their names off of Errol Spence has faced one person, that was Kell Brook, but Kell Brook hasn't faced any of the other welterweights, okay, champions. So, I mean, I don't know why he gets #1 because of that. I mean, that's basically it. It's Lamar Peterson and Kell Brook he really lives off of. When you look at Keith Thurman's competition, it's much better. Keith Thurman's faced Sean Porter. He's faced Danny Garcia. Okay, those are the two that he faced. And when you look at Porter, he's faced Garcia, he's faced Thurman, and he's faced a couple other world champions as well. When you look at Danny Garcia, same thing. He's faced Thurman, he's faced Porter. These are the top echelon welterweights, and they're genuine welterweights. Errol Spence has faced one genuine welterweight, which is Kell Brook. But other than that, he faced nobody else. You know what I mean? Lamar Peterson's not a genuine welterweight. He's a guy that came up from super lightweight. Danny Garcia came up from super lightweight. He didn't win his fights, but he's very competitive against Porter and Thurman. I would love to see Porter versus Errol Spence Jr. I know Porter would, wreak havoc because as much as Spence is strong and his jab would be good, I think Porter's a lot better than he was before. And he would wreak havoc on Errol Spence. I think he would give him some problems. I think Keith Thurman also gives Errol Spence problems. I think Danny Garcia gives Errol Spence problems. Now, I heard a lot of people talking about Terrence Crawford as well, because they're all basically around the same sort of level. Some people have gotten tougher competition, but for the most part, and I like that they have different styles. And you throw Manny Pacquiao in that mix, it's very interesting. But at the end of the day, people are ranking Errol Spence ahead of these guys based on probably just his performance in the ring and not so much the level of competition he's faced. Because Danny, Sean, and Keith have faced higher level competition than both Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence at welterweight. If you're looking career-wise, I think Terrence Crawford has a good, consistent level of competition, not the top tier, but consistent level of competition. I think Errol Spence will be the weakest in all of them. But at the end of the day, people are talking about Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence, and that Errol Spence will knock out Mikey Garcia. I just don't see that, folks. I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't see Mikey Garcia getting knocked out by Errol Spence. He's way too smart. He's way too technical. He's not these guys like some of the guys that Errol Spence knocked out. He's not those guys. You know what I mean? You look at Errol Spence, okay, he beat Leonard Bundu, an old guy. He beat Chris Algieri, but Chris Algieri got knocked down a number of times by Manny Pacquiao, right? Chris Van Herdine's an okay fighter, as well as Philo Greco and Samuel Vargas. But when you think about it, when you're really paying attention, these guys are not A-level competition. And Danny and Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, and Sean Porter are top tier, very strong guys. This is what you guys are not understanding. And I think Mikey Garcia is going to get prepared. Robert Garcia and his dad are going to prepare Mikey Garcia for that battle. They're going to prepare him really, really well. They have a history of not getting their fighters knocked out. Their fighters don't get knocked out. Marcos Maidana didn't get knocked out. And I just don't see, if Marcos Maidana was going up against, for instance, Marcos Maidana was going up against the Marcos Maidana we know that faced Floyd Mayweather and so on, against Errol Spence Jr. I'm telling you, he's not getting knocked out. Errol Spence is not knocking out Marcos Maidana. I don't care how technical he thinks he is, because Marcos got the tricks of the trade, and I just think Mikey, he's got all that knowledge, from Robert and his dad to really fuel in those tricks of the trade. Prevent him from getting stopped by Errol Spence. So I don't think Mikey's going to get stopped. That's honestly, I think you guys are looking at two different levels of competition. Now, Mikey has a lot of other things he'll have to do to make sure he does not get stopped by Errol Spence. But other than that, I also think he needs to be competitive. And so it's not about being all defensive or just kind of staying far away from Errol Spence or coming in and out on him, that kind of stuff. And Errol's going to try and cut off the ring. Definitely, he's going to try and do that. But and Mikey's not a guy that really moves around the ring all that much, but he's going to be moving around the ring a bit. Is this a Diego Corrales versus Robert Garcia that we're going to be watching at all over again? It's possible, but I do believe that Mikey's a lot smarter. I think he's a little sharper than Robert was. I think that this challenge, which is a huge one for him, was one in which he saw that Top Rank and Crawford couldn't make this fight, so I'm gonna make this fight. And Mikey's pretty much his own boss. So I think that's also another reason. And Errol Spence, of course, he doesn't have a promoter, so it kind of works out that both of them can really make this fight happen easy, right? Especially with Al Heyman coordinating everything. So that's good. Mikey's taking a big dive. Nobody's disagreeing with that. It's not a risky fight for him because these guys are fighters. And I don't think Errol Spence is going to hit Mikey with anything that he hasn't felt before. I think Marcos Maidana hits harder than Errol Spence, to be honest with you. I think where Errol Spence places his punches is where Errol Spence is good. He breaks down his fighters. He'll break you down. But as to Errol Spence hitting Mikey with something he's never felt before, I don't think so. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. And I heard a lot of people talking about, Errol Spence is more accurate than Marcos Maidana. That may be the case, but I think Marcos Maidana hits harder than Errol Spence. I really do think so. He's not as accurate, but he definitely hits harder. And I think Errol, one of the wonderful things about Errol, of course, when Errol can place his punches well. But when he really starts ripping body shots, that's when you got a problem. And you got to keep Errol a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit off his rhythm, a little bit, off-centered, a little bit off. You got to keep Errol on the offbeat, and then you can just do what you do. Because Errol got to get comfortable to really rip those body shots. He's not going to rip them unless he's placed them, and he found out where he could steal them and place them here, place them there. Then he's going to come at you. So if Mikey can keep Errol off, off his groove, off his tiling, off his comfort zone. And Errol will go in there thinking, okay, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm going to just try and, track this kid down and then do what I do. And I don't have to worry about incoming fire. That's a kind of crazy way to do it. And he got pretty much a good defense. So he's going to try and walk through some of the stuff. And it may set him up for Mikey to do him something. You remember, in boxing, it don't take much to get knocked out, okay? As strong as you think and as big a chin as you think you have, if you ain't see the shot coming, you're going to sleep. It's that way. So these guys at the highest level, they're really good at seeing what's happening, detecting what's happening, And so you have to factor all of those things into the equation. But if you look at Errol's resume, it's not really anything great. I mean, the only two names, like I said before, that really stand out there is Kell Brook and Lamar Peterson. Now, you got some good fighters, like Leonard Bundu is a very good fighter, okay? Before Keith Thurman beat him, he's very good. And he was doing well against Errol, by the way. But other than him, Leonard Bundu, Kell Brook, and Lamar Peterson, he really got nobody there. You know what I'm saying? Now, some people say it's no fault of his own. I don't know about that. All right? I don't know about that. But you can see how people kind of overrank a fighter because of the knockouts and how sensational they look against other fighters. And I always found that to be unfair and morally wrong, but it is what it is, right? I'm going to go take a rest. Before I do, so these were the places that ranked Errol Spence and Company the way they do. Let me come out of this for a second. Okay. Let me see what you guys are saying in the comment section before I move on to the next fight, which is Tony Bellow versus Usyk. And 2 people are watching. Cool. So let me talk about that. So first of all, Garcia versus Spence, that's on, or almost official. LA Times said that. Let's see, and that's good. That means Mikey was serious about what he was saying. He's going through with the fight, and that's awesome. Errol Spence is going to have a good fight on his hands. It's a guy that supposedly is smaller, but that doesn't really matter. He still has to go in there and do the work. It's not necessarily easy work. It might get tricky. So we'll see how that all pans out and what happens in that fight. But now we're looking at Alexander Usyk versus Tony Bellow. Like a lot of people have been saying, you can't write off Tony Bellow. In fact, I think Tony Bellow could actually win this fight. As much as Usyk is skilled, same training camp as Vasily Lomachenko, I just truly believe Bellow gonna give him a run for his money, a serious run for his money. Because Bellow is coming from a higher weight class. He's a bigger, stronger guy. I think that Bellow can actually turn the tides on this one. Now, Usyk's got good quality and stuff. I haven't really watched him box. I just think Bellow, his attitude is interesting. He would come back at you and try and get you. I don't know how cerebral Usyk is. I know Lomachenko is very busy. And he mixes up things so he can get different results. Usyk may be the same thing as him. Definitely the creme de la creme, the top of the crop. I hear people talking about Usyk taking on Wilder and beating Wilder and all these kind of crazy stuff. Now listen, I'm not going to say that the hype isn't partially real, just like with Lomachenko, but I think they're overhyping this fighter again, Usyk. I think we need to see what he can do when performing against a guy like Tony Bellow. Bellow's not that complex, though, so it wouldn't be surprising if Usyk made Bellow quit or Bellow goes to the end of the fight and the scorecards are for Usyk. So, yeah, that's my take on that. You guys got anything extra you want to talk about before I get out of here? Yeah, so that's basically it. Other channels are already covering this stuff. Don't forget you can check out Master Boxing. And I got to tell you guys, have a peaceful day. Keep my mom and me in prayers. I'm very tired still. And body, man, the body is awesome. Peace. I'm gone.